A homeless single dad cleaned office floors at night while hiding his son inside a storage room, until he discovered a deadly defect that billionaires ignored. When the ruthless CEO mocked him as just a nobody worker, his life shattered. But one woman believed in him when nobody else did. Years later, the same janitor returned as a billionaire with the power to save lives, expose painful truths, and face a heartbreaking choice that changed everything forever. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss another powerful, emotional, and life-changing story from Life Lesson Stories. One small click could bring you the inspiration that changes your life forever. I pushed a rusted mop through marble hallways while my 5-year-old son slept inside a storage room wrapped in my old jacket. The CEO walked past me every morning, wearing a suit that smelled of expensive cologne and power. He never looked at my face. One winter night, I found a defect in the company's battery design. A tiny crack. Silent. Deadly. I carried the report upstairs with trembling hands. The CEO laughed in front of everyone. "You are just a nobody worker." The room exploded with mocking smiles. My ears burned. My son watched from the doorway. That night, I wanted to quit life itself. Then Sophia held my shaking hands beside a cheap street food cart. Rainwater dripped from her hair onto my bruised knuckles. "You clean floors," she whispered. "But your mind sees what rich men ignore." She sold her mother's necklace so I could build my own prototype in a freezing garage. For 2 years, we survived on noodles, exhaustion, and impossible hope. My fingers bled on machinery. Her feet swelled from working double shifts. Then the company's batteries exploded nationwide. The same CEO appeared on television, begging for solutions. And suddenly, the janitor they mocked became the only man who could save billions. The day I walked back into that tower, Sophia squeezed my hand softly and said, I stepped into the glass tower, wearing the same worn shoes that once squeaked across its dirty floors. Executives who ignored me for years now stood when I entered the room. The CEO's face looked pale. His hands shook beside stacks of lawsuits and collapsing stock reports. "We need your design," he said quietly. For a moment, anger tasted sweet in my mouth. I remembered the laughter, the humiliation, my son hiding tears behind a broken door. Then Sophia touched my shoulder gently. Her eyes carried the same warmth that once kept me alive in freezing nights. "Build a future," she whispered. "Do not build revenge." So I signed the agreement. Months later, our safer batteries transformed the industry. Factories reopened. Thousands returned to work. Mothers fed their children again. Money flooded into my life faster than rain through cracked ceilings. Private jets, magazine covers, billion-dollar contracts. Yet every night, I still kissed my son goodnight. Inside the small apartment we refused to leave. One evening, I came home carrying flowers for Sophia. But the apartment was silent. No music from the kitchen. No smell of her cinnamon tea. Only a hospital envelope resting on the table beside her wedding ring. My hands turned cold as I opened it. And suddenly, all the wealth in the world felt terrifyingly small. My heartbeat pounded so hard. The room felt smaller with every breath. The hospital letter trembled in my hands. "Sophia has been diagnosed with severe heart failure." The words blurred through my tears. I rushed into the rain-soaked streets, calling her name like a desperate prayer. At the hospital, I found her sitting alone beside a cold window. Her face looked tired, fragile. Yet she still smiled when she saw me. "I did not want your success to become fear," she whispered softly. I fell to my knees beside her chair. This woman had carried my broken soul for years. while silently carrying pain inside her own body. I remembered her skipping meals so my son could eat, her hiding worn-out shoes beneath the bed, her exhausted hands counting coins for our dreams. Now machines beeped around her, like cruel reminders that time was slipping away. I can buy the best doctors, I said desperately. The best hospitals in the world. She touched my cheek gently. I never needed your money, she said. I only needed you to believe in yourself. Weeks passed in sleepless fear. I cancelled meetings, ignored investors, sat beside her hospital bed every night. Then one morning, a young nurse rushed toward me with tears in her eyes. There may be a donor heart, she said. Hope exploded inside my chest so suddenly. It almost hurt. But seconds later, the doctor's expression darkened. There is one problem. The donor family has refused the transfer. The doctor's words struck me harder than any insult I had ever endured. They do not trust wealthy people, he explained quietly. They believe money destroys honesty. I stood frozen beneath the harsh hospital lights. For years, I fought to escape poverty. Now my wealth had become a wall between life and death. That night, I removed my designer watch, my expensive jacket, every symbol of success. Then I drove alone to the donor family's small farmhouse beyond the city. The smell of wet soil and firewood filled the cold air. An old man opened the door slowly. His eyes carried exhaustion deeper than mine. My daughter died yesterday, he said. And now billionaires come asking for pieces of her body. His grief crushed the room into silence. I lowered my head. I was once a janitor, I whispered. I know what hunger sounds like at night. I told him about Sophia. About the woman who sold her necklace for my dream. The woman who fed my son before feeding herself. The old man stared at me for a long time. Then he walked to a dusty shelf and returned holding a faded photograph of his daughter smiling beside a piano. She believed kindness should continue living, he said softly. Tears filled his eyes as he reached for the approval papers. But suddenly, his hand stopped trembling over the signature line, because someone else had just entered the room. And the voice behind me said, "He is lying." I turned slowly. My stomach tightened instantly. It was the former CEO. The same man who once laughed while I stood humiliated with a mop in my hands. Rainwater dripped from his black coat onto the wooden floor. His cold smile had not changed. "He is not telling you the full story," he said to the old man. "This billionaire destroyed my company and took my life's work." The room grew heavy with silence. I felt the old man's trust slipping away. The CEO stepped closer. "He acts humble now," he sneered. "But power changes people." His words reopened scars I fought years to bury. For one painful moment, anger exploded inside me like fire. I wanted to expose every cruel thing he had done. Every insult. Every lie. But then I remembered Sophia lying weak beneath hospital blankets. I looked at the old man and spoke softly. "Yes, I hated him." The CEO smirked proudly. "But hatred nearly destroyed me," I continued. "And the woman fighting for her life taught me that success without kindness becomes another form of poverty." The old man's eyes filled slowly with emotion. Outside, thunder rolled across the dark fields. Then my phone rang. It was the hospital. I answered with shaking hands. The nurse sounded breathless. "Sir, Sophia's condition is crashing fast." My chest turned numb. "We may lose her before sunrise." The old man stared at me. At my tears. At the fear stripping away every layer of pride. Then suddenly, he picked up the pen again. But before the signature touched the paper, the former CEO grabbed his wrist violently and shouted, "You have no idea what this man is hiding." The old man pulled his hand back slowly. The former CEO breathed heavily. his eyes burning with desperation. "This man stole my research," he shouted. "He built his empire from my company's designs." The accusation slammed into the room like thunder. I closed my eyes for one painful second. Because part of it was true. Years ago, after discovering the battery defect, I secretly copied company files before leaving the building. At the time, I told myself I was exposing corruption, saving lives. But deep inside, I knew I also carried rage. A wounded man's hunger to prove his worth. The old man stared at me in silence. "Is this true?" he asked softly. My throat tightened. I could have denied everything. My lawyers could bury the truth forever. But Sophia once told me, a man becomes truly rich the moment he stops hiding from himself. So I nodded slowly. "Yes," I whispered. I crossed a line. The former CEO laughed bitterly. "There. You see his real face now." But the old man did not look at him. He looked only at me. At my trembling hands. At the shame I could no longer hide. Then he asked quietly, "What did you do after becoming powerful?" Tears burned my eyes. I spent every dollar trying to build safer technology, so no family would bury their child because greedy people ignored danger. The room fell silent again. Finally, the old man signed the paper with shaking fingers. "Broken people can still choose to heal others," he said softly. Hope rushed through me so violently. My knees nearly gave out. I grabbed the papers and ran into the stormy night. But halfway to my car, my phone rang again. This time, it was my son crying. "Dad," he whispered, terrified. Mom stopped breathing. I drove through the storm like a man racing death itself. Hospital lights blurred through my tears. My shoes slammed against cold floors as I ran toward Sophia's room. Doctors surrounded her bed. Machines screamed sharply into the air. Then suddenly, silence. My son clung to my shaking arm. His tiny fingers trembled like mine once did in those janitor nights. And then, a heartbeat returned. Weak. Fragile. Beautiful. The donor heart arrived minutes before hope disappeared forever. Hours later, I sat beside Sophia as morning sunlight touched her pale face. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled at me with the same quiet love that carried me through poverty, humiliation, and fear. At that moment, I understood something greater than success. Money built towers, but love rebuilt broken souls. Years later, our company became one of the largest in the world. Yet the proudest thing I ever built was a free hospital wing for struggling families who could not afford treatment. The former CEO eventually came to me alone, defeated by bitterness and regret. And instead of revenge, I offered him a chair, a meal, and forgiveness. Because Sophia taught me that pain can create monsters. Or miracles. I was once a janitor nobody respected. A tired father carrying shame in silence. But kindness, honesty, sacrifice, and love transformed my life more than wealth ever could. And that is the real secret behind every lasting success.